So my name is Richard Frost. I live in Devon. I'm a licensed lay minister in the Anglican Church down here. And as an author, I've had 7 books published, 3 of which are fiction. They're contemporary fiction novellas, and the other 4 are all faith books, including the latest one that we're going to talk about. Loving yourself, in a sense, it's like what it says on the cover, really, and particularly actually the picture that's on the cover. So this grew out of initially a couple of years ago. I was invited to give a talk at Exeter Cathedral in one of their slightly alternative forms of worship that they have there. And because my background is in helping people in relation to their mental well-being, particularly as to how that relates to finding or remaining in work, and also that I'm known as an author and as a licensed minister, I agreed with the person who made the invitation that I would talk about the aspect of loving ourselves. So it's based around Jesus' words of love your neighbour as yourself. Now, loving our neighbour is the easy bit in many ways. We may not like our neighbour that much, or the people we work with or the people we go to church with, but we can show people love, we can do kind things. But actually, when it comes to loving ourselves, and that can be much more tricky for some of us, find it more difficult to kind of think, well, how do we love ourselves? Or, we've been taught that is something that is selfish or narcissistic or whatever. Whereas I think actually what God says, that God loves us, and if we can learn to take that love better for ourselves, that also enables us to love our neighbour better. So the book explores Jesus' words and then looks at different aspects of what that love means, and offers very practical suggestions as to how we do that in a way that is balancing and balancing for ourselves and looking after our own well-being as well as our spiritual life. As I mentioned earlier, I was initially asked to give a talk, so I used the script from that talk and then looked at other things and asked people to contribute the book. But I suppose underlying all that is my professional and personal background in terms of encountering a lot of people who find it very difficult to show love for themselves, particularly those who are mentally unwell. But also I worked a lot with people who have physical disabilities. When you've got that impacting on your sense of identity, you think, well, that my body doesn't work as I would like it to do, or I'm sad all the time, or I'm just not a good person. A lot of people feel about themselves. It's actually, how can we say, well, actually there are good things within you, and God has made those things within you. So how can we get that balance, really, just balancing off sometimes the narrative or the story that we tell ourselves. So there's a passion there, I suppose, for trying to help people gain life in all its fullness, if like as Jesus also said. And as Richard Coles, the Reverend Richard Coles, he once said something along the lines of that life in all its fullness includes all the things that we find difficult. All the things that we struggle with. That is life in its fullness. It doesn't necessarily mean to say that everything's got to be brilliant and perfect. And I think a lot of times, sometimes the church's teaching has said, no, you can't do these things towards yourself. That's very selfish or sinful even. But actually, no, I think God loves us, and we need to know that within ourselves in order to experience God more deeply. So that's the passion, really, I suppose, for enabling people to gain that for themselves and to know that it's all right. I hope that people will read it, they will enjoy the reading of it, but there's perhaps just something in there that thinks, right, I didn't realize that, or yes, that helps me think about this topic in a different way. So within the book, for example, I put some of the kind of the counter arguments, things I mentioned a moment ago, and actually, well, let's think about these afresh. But also maybe just kind of inspires people to take a little bit more time in just looking after themselves, and that's all right to do that they have permission to do that. God's not going to feel angry, and it doesn't matter really what other people think. It's about kind of how can we learn to let God love us and to therefore come to know him more deeply. through an Instagram post. So I'm on Instagram as well, and I saw that you were looking for new books by Christian authors to have in your shop and online store. So I thought, right, let's get in touch with them, because this one only came out in July of 2025, so it's a very new book, and thought, right, get in touch with you, and here we are now talking today.